still believe in the American dream. I still believe you can hear me scream. You're still alive, still on fire. I defy the aim of mine. AM 1460, the new WXBR. You're listening to the Metro South Morning Show. Peter Czymbor and Mike Pava here with you on a Wednesday morning. Joining me now via the telephone is a rock and roll icon and New York Times bestselling author, a staunch conservative, and a vehement defender of the Second Amendment. He'll be playing the House of Blues in Boston Wednesday, August 7th. It's the one and only Ted Nugent. Ted, good morning.
Well, fine morning to you. Happy barbecue summer to everybody out there.
Ted, we want to get your views on a few issues that relate to both social issues and rock and roll, as you've never been one to shy away from speaking your mind. I wanted to get your take on a controversy which has died down to some degree over the past few days, but it was red hot last week and really hasn't died down as much nationally as it has here in the Boston area over the past few days. What are your thoughts on Dzhokar Tsarnaev, the accused Boston Marathon bomber, appearing on the cover of Rolling Stone, which was released last week? Because more often than not, the cover of Rolling Stone features people within your line of work as opposed to people who attain notoriety in the manner that Dzhokar Tsarnaev did.
Right. Well, I understand the controversy, and I think a lot of people were surprised when I wrote a piece about it in a number of websites. Rare.us is a conservative website, and Newsmax.com and WND. And I guess I have to preempt this with another genuine and sincere prayer for all my friends in Boston. I know it's a tragic memory that the smell of hate and blood is still alive, and we wish nothing but total healing for all our friends in Boston. And I, with that in mind, I did not condemn Rolling Stone for using this punk's picture on the cover, even though it was a cute picture because he's a cute guy. I don't think anybody is referencing the cuteness or any type of rock star adulation. I think it's important to expose monsters and devils and terrorists and haters like this punk and his brother. And I think that Rolling Stone does not have a good track record of being honest journalists, but oftentimes they do get it right. And when they scrutinize someone like Charles Manson for being the subhuman piece of crap that he is, I think they did the same thing with this terrorist. And I thought the writing was rather well done. I forget the gal's name that wrote it, but she did a good job of exposing the subhumanity and the sheer demonacy of terrorism overall, and how this punk smoked so much dope that his brain went to hell, his spirit went away, and he became desouled intentionally so he could perpetuate and perpetrate hate upon innocent Americans in Boston. So I thought it was important to scrutinize and to dissect and to expose the system, especially with the nonsense that Rolling Stone usually stands up for, that drugs are a victimless crime when it fries your brain to the point where you become a devil and kill innocent people at a marathon.
Now, it certainly touched a nerve with him being on the cover here in the Boston area. Did it touch a nerve with you as a musician that someone who is a non-entertainer was on the cover of a entertainment magazine, which is generally prime real estate for people who want to promote their albums, concerts, and whatnot?
No, I don't, because I lost faith in a Rolling Stone magazine. I thought they have really insulted Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and the originators, the guys that came up with the term Rolling Stone, and for certainly the greatest rock and roll band in the world, Rolling Stones. They used to have some journalistic musical integrity back in the original days, but I think most of the people at Rolling Stone are also dope smokers, just like the terrorists were. So they don't have a very a believable moral compass or a journalist compass or a professional compass. So I think they can do it as they damn well please. You know, I really revere, not just respect, but I revere the First Amendment, much like I do the Second Amendment and all the God-given rights as guaranteed in our U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. So I think it's important that we just back off, take a deep breath, and no matter how painful and how much suffering an individual brings into our lives, I think we still have to know that it's important to dissect these individuals, to research their past, and the system by which they became so hateful and so terror-driven. So I thought it was important they did it, but again, you have to have a jaundiced eye and scrutinize everything that comes up in Rolling Stone magazine because it's all too often inaccurate. But again, this piece I thought was done rather accurately, and I don't think there was any content to the story on this punk that glorified him or tried to make him look like a rock star by any stretch of the imagination.
The interesting thing is the controversy really had nothing to do with the content of the article. It was strictly about the cover. The controversy came about before the article was even released, based when people just saw the cover.
Sure, I saw that, and again, it's understandable because again, I've spent a lot of time saluting flag-draped coffins and spending a lot of time with United States military hero warriors that have had their legs and arms and eyes and skin blown off. So I've held an awful lot of crying family members. In fact, I've held my own crying family members when we say goodbye to a terminally ill little boy or girl that comes and spends their last wish in life hunting with the Nugent family. So I understand pain, suffering, trauma, and it's different to be a casualty of an accident or a casualty of a war where you're fighting to crush evil with the good of our U.S. military. But when a terrorist act takes place, especially with the ingredients that transpired leading up to this Boston horror, I think we have to make sure that we don't close any doors and we scrutinize maybe how our government dropped the ball and didn't respond properly to warning signs. And I'm not drawing any conclusions here, but I'm just saying we need to be open-minded. And I think that those who have been tragically hurt and their lives have been destroyed by an individual, I understand their suffering, and yes, it is it's much too early maybe to have a photo of this guy in a magazine. But again, we have to get past the symbolism of a photo versus the substance of what the article was attempting to do, and that I thought did a good job.
Once again, we're chatting with Ted Nugent here on AM 1460, the new WXBR, performing at the House of Blues in Boston on August the 7th. Has Rolling Stone ever done an article on you in which you've disagreed vehemently with, because you've had some harsh words for them thus far in this interview?
Oh, yeah. The media is always just about, killed themselves, tripping over their lies and hate about Ted Nugent because I'm on the board of directors of the National Rifle Association. Because most hippies, especially the more dope you smoke, the more you fail to grasp the purity of self-defense and the purity of the Second Amendment as you bastardize the First Amendment. So Rolling Stone did a cover story on me back in 1979 where I happened to have a Walther PPK 380 in my hand that the art director asked if we could utilize for a prop for the photo, which I happened to have on me at the time. And Jan Wenner, who is vehemently against self-defense, vehemently against the right to keep and bear arms, I don't think anybody harbors more hate for anyone than Jan Wenner hates for me, and I take that as a badge of honor, because just prior to Jan Wenner walking off into the sunset with his boyfriend's ass in hand, abandoning his family, he decided that he was good and I was bad. Well, how perfect is that?
Once again, we're chatting with Ted Nugent here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You mentioned acting in self-defense in relation to firearms, and whether someone did or did not act in relation to self-defense came about in recent weeks when the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin case, the verdict came down, and it elicited passionate responses from a plethora of people throughout the country. Now, following the verdict in the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin case that came down, a number of musicians, spearheaded by Stevie Wonder, have decided to boycott performing in Florida in protest of that state's Stand Your Ground law. Is that something that you would support, Ted? I would have to think otherwise.
Well, once again, Peter, why do you think they call it dope? I mean, you've got to be kidding me. So 700 black people, mostly children, young people, were slaughtered in Chicago last year by black people, and not a peep out of Stevie Wonder. Are you kidding me? What is this, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? I mean, how brain dead do you have to be? How strangled by denial? How dishonest? How cheap do you have to be to focus on a clear-cut case where all the evidence from the DOJ, from the FBI, from the entire army of investigative specialists in Florida determined that George Zimmerman acted in self-defense against a life-threatening attack by hoodlum, dope-smoking Trayvon Martin, and you're going to focus on that clear and universally concluded act of self-defense, but ignore the black-on-black slaughter that's happening every day in this country. I got to tell you, Peter, I will pray for Stevie Wonder and all these other numbnuts who think that Trayvon Martin's life is more important than the tens of thousands of slaughtered blacks at the hands of blacks. I don't even know what to do with that information. It's so absurd. It's so offensive. And the term soulless keeps coming to mind. And what a soulful performer. What a soulful genius. What a soulful man Stevie Wonder once was. How do you go from being one of the most soulful people in the world to being absolutely soulless?
Have you had encounters with Stevie Wonder over the years? I have to imagine you guys have been a part of some of the same functions within the world of rock and roll and whatnot.
Well, certainly I've genuflected at the same black altar of rhythm and blues and gospel and blues and black American genius all my life. In fact, my tour this year with the world's greatest rhythm and blues rock and roll band, Mick Brown and Greg Smith and Derek St. Holmes, our tour is called Ted Nugent Black Power 2013 because we have always for 50 years paid tribute to the black gods of soul music in America, because only the black influenced music is really the best music in the world. I think everybody, whether it's Justin Bieber or the Chili Peppers or Aerosmith or Cheap Trick or Ted Nugent or even Dustin Bieber or whatever his name is, there's always that Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, the Mighty Motown Funk Brothers. So nobody reveres the gods of music, which are all black, like I do, and I actually mention them all by name every night and have done so for 50 years. So, I've met Stevie Wonder. I shook his hand, and I gave him an absolute hug of love and respect and reverence for his musical genius and the hardship that he's overcome over the years. But I just don't know how dishonest and how choked by denial one can get to somehow believe that all evidence irrefutably concludes that George Zimmerman was acting in self-defense, was up to nothing but good for his neighborhood that night, and he was attacked viciously, his life being threatened by Trayvon Martin, and his life almost being snuffed out until he used his legally carried firearm to neutralize the life-threatening force. And people that don't get that, I feel so sorry for them, that maybe their son or daughter, when their head is being bashed against the pavement, they would just as soon their son or daughter died because they don't believe in self-defense or standing your ground, even though the Stand Your Ground statute had absolutely nothing to do in the Martin Zimmerman case. So I stand back, and my family, number one, we pray for the Martins, we pray for the Zimmermans, we pray for the victims of crime all across this country. But the victim of crime in this instance was George Zimmerman. And the perpetrator of crime was Trayvon Martin. Case closed.
We're chatting with Ted Nugent here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You referred to Trayvon Martin as being a dope smoker and a hoodlum. The former was proven when marijuana was found in his system at the time he was shot and killed by...
Hello? Yeah, no kidding. You see, I don't guess. I'm a pretty cocky guy. I wrote Wango Tango, and I actually meant the lyrics. But I'm not cocky and stupid. I study that evidence. I've been a cop since 1982, and I work closely with law enforcement all over this country. And I was tsunami, just bombarded with the evidence as it was coming in from every direction, including the FBI, the Department of Justice, the entire prosecutorial team, and the entire defense team, and the state of Florida, and all the investigative resources that you could have possibly amassed. And the conclusion was the same conclusion that the law enforcement professionals came to the night of the incident, but tens of millions of dollars in ruined lives later, and the racism gone berserk. The jury, after masticating, absorbing, reviewing, and re-reviewing all that same evidence, concluded the same thing the cops did that night. George Zimmerman defended his life from a life-threatening attack. Bingo.
Once again, we're chatting with Ted Nugent here on AM 1460, the new WXBR, wrapping up this Stevie Wonder topic. He also mentioned that wherever the Stand Your Ground law exists, he will not perform there. And according to my research, that would prevent him from performing in at least 23 states in America. I don't know what the situation is like worldwide. Do you think that this boycott will last, or do you think it will be done with once he realizes how many places it prevents him from performing?
The term tisk comes to mind. I think if you look up the word inconsequential in your Webster's dictionary, you might see a picture of Stevie Wonder. I don't get it. God bless Stevie Wonder. I truly love the man. I revere the man. But, his ocular blindness has been eclipsed now by his spiritual blindness. He is blind to the evidence. He is rejecting the irrefutable evidence. He is making a stand where no stand should be made. And I don't believe him. I don't even think he's being honest about it, because he's not going to boycott those 22 states. And let's examine, Peter, shall we? The words, stand your ground. What kind of feeble individual doesn't believe in that?
I'm not sure. Apparently Stevie Wonder.
Well, apparently people who don't think that life, the precious gift of life from God, is worth defending. I mean, I do these interviews and I do debates, and I use the word debate awfully generously, because if you debate me on stuff like this, I'll just eat your ass like I did Pierce Morgan. You have to live a lie to follow the path that Stevie Wonder is following right now. And again, I mean no disrespect. I'm just calling it like it is. The facts are just ridiculously obvious. And I wish they would just wake up. All these so-called artists that are boycotting Florida because George Zimmerman didn't die that night. That's really what it boils down to, Peter. I just don't know what happened to the America I was raised in, where you got your Al Not So Sharp and race baiters and your Jesse Jackson and your Louis Farrakhan playing around with the worst racists in the history of the world, the Black Panthers, and then our own president, the Chicago gangster, Acorn community organizer, scam artist-in-chief, is siding with the Black Panthers, Peter? Are you kidding me? Well, I knew the gun-running attorney general sided with the Black Panthers because he watches the video evidence that we've all seen of Black Panthers committing numerous felonies in Philadelphia and elsewhere, threatening people at the voting booth. So we know Eric Holder is a big supporter of the Black Panthers. But for the President of the United States to side with the worst racists since the Ku Klux Klan and side with the Black Panthers, America better pray a little harder, because I've never seen it so ugly and so stupid in all my life.
Is there anyone that you've ever come into contact with that you've disagreed vehemently politically but have gotten along with personally? I guess you mentioned Stevie Wonder earlier. You have a lot of love and reverence for the man. But is there anyone particularly close to you that might be left-wing as opposed to you being very far to the right, where you actually get along personally, but politically you'll never see eye to eye?
Yes, it has happened most of the time, because most people do have a flicker of standby intellect that they're not putting to use. And in 99% of the instances, I have converted them to the truth, because logic does exist in all of us, but unfortunately political correctness and the lie of denial from the left and the fantasy gooks out there, goons out there, they cling to this fantasy because it's comfortable, and they don't want to face discomforting truth. But once I present it to them in a sincere and loving way, typically I convert almost everybody. But I have a good friend, Tom Morello, the original guitar player for Rage Against the Machine.
He is as far left as you are far right.
I think he's the illegitimate son of Mao Zedong, is what I think happened there. But being that as it may, I admire Tom. He's a kind man. He's a decent man. He couldn't be more off base and more lost in the wilderness of denial. But we shake hands, we hug, we argue a little bit, but we remain civil, and we go our separate ways. In fact, you go right now, Peter, you let your listeners know that I conducted an in-depth interview and debate with Nick Cannon. And right now, Nick Cannon has a podcast that is free download on iTunes. I don't know all the gory details of it, but I have it at tednugent.com. And I had a good conversation and a good civil disagreement with Nick Cannon, who specifically requested an interview with me and a debate with me. And you can get it on that podcast on iTunes right now. And you'll see that, once again, this guy, he's a good man. He's a talented man. He has a great work ethic. He's solidly in the asset column overall in life because he's productive and he cares. But my God, has he bought into the left-wing propaganda that somehow blacks killing blacks don't matter, but only a black who is offended by a non-black matters. And I tried to get him out of it, and I think I did to some degree, but I think he's clinging to that racism, and it breaks my heart. But again, we were 100% soul brothers and blood brothers during the entire debate, and I don't think there was any disrespect shown whatsoever.
So you did not eat his ass as you did Piers Morgan?
No, well, I did, but in a more genteel fashion, because I thought it was more effective under the circumstances. See, I'm a little I cheat, Pete, because I'm trained by the United States Marine Corps snipers. So when you use the term improvise, adapt, and overcome, I think I might understand it more than most of your civilians out there. And so I improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I don't back off. I don't mince words, you may have noticed. But I also try to get the point across in the most effective manner without scaring the hell out of somebody. So even though I wasn't afraid of scaring the hell out of Piers Morgan, you saw that I won that encounter almost to an embarrassing level. But Piers Morgan is so stupid he didn't even get the fact that he lost tragically on his own show, but his producers did.
We're chatting with Ted Nugent here on this Wednesday morning. Ted, you recently made headlines by indicating that you perhaps would like to run for president someday on the Republican ticket. Would you ever consider running for any political office? I would imagine you would not jump straight to the Oval Office if you were to vie for some political office.
Well, you never know, Peter. I'm constantly asked that question. I've been asked that question so many times, so a lot of times my response is paraphrased in a not 100% accurate fashion by the professional media out there. Wait a second. There is no professional media out there.
I'm not a professional, Ted?
There's your show.
Okay, thank you.
There's your show. And a bunch of my other buddies. I've done Dennis Miller, and I do so many differ't shows. And there's some great media out there I'm proud to be a part of. However, in the mainstream media and the left gangland of denial, they just can't get anything right. So I have never offered to run for anything, but I have been asked to run numerous times in numerous states for numerous offices. And I know that if I ran anything like I run everything in my life, the way I run my music, the way I run my tours for 50 years, the way I run my family, you will see that my family, my wife, my children, my brothers, my sister, my grandkids, my band, my crew, my management, my Spirit of the Wild production team on Outdoor Channel, our Sunrise Safaris guiding and outfitting business, everything in the Ted Nugent world is 100% productive, 100% beneficial to society, mankind, and Mother Earth. And if we could run America the way the Ted Nugent ship is run, America would once again be the greatest place in the world.
We're chatting with Ted Nugent here on AM 1460, the new WXBR, playing the House of Blues in Boston Wednesday, August 7th. Ted, you mentioned your TV show Spirit of the Wild on Outdoor Channel. What else is keeping you busy these days outside of your political activism and whatnot? Any new music on the horizon?
Yeah, we're always jamming. I got just the most incredible band with Mick Brown on drums, Greg Smith on bass guitar, the incredible Derek St. Holmes from Detroit on guitar and vocals, and every night is just a rhythm and blues orgy. I mean, the music is so powerful, so soulful, so intense, and we're always coming up with new licks and new jams, and we've got just an incredible gaggle of killer new songs. And we expect to go in the studio this winter after the deer season is over, since I'll be fortified with much spirit and protein. And we're going to record at least a dozen of these new killer songs, and we hope to have a new CD out next year, along with a brand new book that I'm writing called Ted Nugent Ballistic. That's my lifetime of being surrounded by tools, particularly firearms, and how it's 100% good, proper, legal, and beneficial to everyone. And in just total defiance of the much of the media and our political goons out there. So I'm busy writing another book called Stranglehold. It'll be my life story. My wife, Shemaine, and all my kids and I, we do charity work nonstop throughout the year for military charities and youth charities of every imaginable description and title. And we're genuinely moved by the generosity and the incredible love and giving of our fellow Americans. Hell, we raised over $100,000 for our friends in Boston with my buddies in Styx and REO Speedwagon just the last couple months. So we just raised a huge amount of money for our friends in West Texas, a huge amount of money for the tornado victims in Oklahoma. We're always doing charity work, so it keeps me very much alive at the tender age of 65 years, clean and sober. I'm blessed with indefatigable energy and enthusiasm for my passions in life, which are mostly starts with family, God, country, charity, my music, my conservation, outdoor hunting lifestyle. And our Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild has been the #1 show on Outdoor Channel for 25 years now, and we're very, very proud that a non-apologetic, no BS hunting show celebrating tooth, fang, and claw honesty and the blood and guts that bring us life and meals and protein and balanced biodiversity is so perfect, it's unbelievable. So thank everybody for making Spirit of the Wild the #1 show all these years, and there's more where that came from.
That's Ted Nugent joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Catch him August 7th at the House of Blues. Ted, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, Peter, God bless you, man. God bless you for the truth and the logic and the common sense that you keep common and sensible. I'm proud to do this show with you anytime.
You're listening to the Metro South Morning Show, PM and the AM here on this Wednesday morning. We're right up against the news break, courtesy of Mike Pava. Stick with us.